Hello, Pastor Chris Wickland here. So I'm currently in London at the moment, and I've just been to the Israeli embassy to see some quite harrowing footage of what happened on October the 7th. So I'm just going to, I've got no really direction in what I'm about to say, but whilst it's still fresh in my mind, I just wanted to put some of the things out there that I saw today. And the reason why the Israeli embassy are putting this on is because the narrative has moved on so much now. It's about, Israel and Palestine, but actually it was always about Israel and Hamas. And we got to see firsthand footage of just how bad Hamas really are. And I think we've got to be so careful, because I know that Christians, they don't want to get into the politics of it all, and they don't want to get into the argument or the narrative of it, and so generally a lot of Christians tend to avoid it, even to the point where some Christians are into their conspiracy theories, where they're saying, oh, Israel brought this upon themselves so that they could then attack Hamas. But if you'd saw the footage that I saw today, you'd be ashamed at yourself for even thinking such things. And so it was a lot to process, if I'm honest with you. We saw lots of footage. There's 40 years worth of footage that Hamas had taken on that one day. 40 years worth. Everything from mobile phones, security, they had body cams and security cameras, etc. And the footage that I got to see, they were very clever how they managed to piece body cam footage together with CCTV footage, etc. And the majority of this footage was actually Hamas's own footage as well. Including audio footage on the phone and things like that. I remember Andrew Murray saying recently that even the Nazis weren't as bad as Hamas. Because you see, when the Nazis exterminated so many Jews, they had to get drunk most nights just to be able to cope with just how awful it was, the job that they had to do and the things that they were doing. They were deeply ashamed of themselves. And they literally, Hitler had to get them stone drunk so that they could make it through the day before they then moved out into the gas chambers side of it so they could become more efficient at killing Jews. But I remember Andrew Murray saying recently on TV, saying, even the Nazis weren't as bad as Hamas, because Hamas, not only the things that they did were just inhumane to a whole nother level, but they phoned up their parents, and they rejoiced and they danced and they sang about the terrible atrocities that they saw. I think one of the pieces of footage which I found probably most disturbing, even though the two boys survived it, was this one particular scene where it was on one of the kibbutzes, and the father could hear that there was gunshots, and they were all just dressed in like shorts, nothing else. And they were having a nice Sabbath morning, so to speak, and then suddenly heard all these gunshots. The father grabbed his two boys. I guess one must have been about 14 and the other looked about 11. And suddenly the place was under fire, so he took them out round the back of the house into what looked like some kind of a shelter, like a bomb shelter. And some Hamas soldier came in, saw that he'd gone in there, and just threw a hand grenade into that room. And the father died instantly. The two boys came out stunned. One of the kids had his eye blown out with shrapnel, and the other one had a hole put into his shoulder through the shrapnel. Then the Hamas soldiers took him and they put him inside his house, and one of them just very casually just drank Coke in front of them and then just got out of the house. And the two boys, they were completely stunned. They weren't sure if what was going on was real. They were just completely stunned. Even though one had his eye blown out and stuff, they were completely just bemused by what was going on, couldn't take in the reality of the situation. And eventually they managed to escape, but hearing them cry, saying, that we're going to die, and one helping the other one out and the other one helping the other out and stuff. And eventually they managed to escape. And then you see the footage of the mother when she returns to the house with the IDF security. I think it was IDF, and just her screaming and screaming because of her dead husband, who was a hero because he just literally shielded the kids from the blunt of that hand grenade. I saw things where people were getting decapitated. I mean, I'm not going to go into all the things because, quite frankly, most people don't want to know about it and they don't want to hear about it. But if a lot of these people that are out on the streets, especially the young people today, who that are, you know, pro-Palestinian and getting involved in all of this this anti-Israel rhetoric, if they saw the footage that I saw today, I'm sure they would have a very different opinion of this whole thing. Because, you know, whether you agree with what's going on or not, and the narrative has moved on, but we need to remember that this all began on October the 7th, and we need to remember what started this. This wasn't a Palestinian-Israel conflict. This was a bunch of evil men who are a part of a totalitarian regime that do not want a two-state solution. They want Israel obliterated and wiped off the map. This wasn't an attack on soldiers, this was an attack on civilians. I saw footage of 139 people today getting shot, butchered, killed, maimed, raped, burned, all of these kind of things out of thousands. And as I said, there's over 40 years worth of footage of what happened that particular day. Everything from the people that were at, it was not a nightclub, that music festival that was going on at the border, right through to what happened at the kibbutzes and things. It was just absolutely awful. And so I just wanted to say, really, you know, that be careful. I mean, when I watch things like Piers Morgan Uncensored, you see the narrative has moved on. Firstly, when October the 7th actually happened, they were having lots of Muslims being interviewed on Piers Morgan's show, and they were all saying, no, what's being said in the media allegedly happened. Okay, and quickly it moved on from there, like we're now in denial that it never really happened, and now it's really about the Palestine, it's really about Israelis. It was never about that. It was about Hamas, which their very name means violence. And they came in, they rejoiced, they phoned up their parents, I've killed 10 Jews, look at me, aren't you proud of me? I murdered them with my own hands. Seeing people getting their heads cut off, all kinds of things, and they're taking photographs and selfies, doing it and sending it. If people had actually seen the footage that I saw today, then it would turn this thing around overnight. And one of the things that I have to say, you know, when October the 7th happened, I met up with a Messianic Jewish friend of mine, and we had dinner together, and one of the things that he said to me, he said, you know what, Chris, he said, I am utterly ashamed and angry and appalled at the Christians. He said the church has gone silent. He said even those churches that were kind of pro-Israel and didn't mind having me come in to talk about Messianic Jewish stuff, he said they've all gone silent. They're not saying anything. And I would have to say, I mean, I would always say this, but even more so now, I have to say to all those Christian leaders of churches that have decided to stay quiet and neutral on this, I have to say shame on you. I have to say shame on you, because this is not a theological issue, this is not a political issue, this comes down to good old-fashioned morality. What is right, what is wrong, what is evil, what is good. And the fact that many Christians have taken a indifferent stance or even a left stance on this, if you knew what happened on that day. Now I know some of you are thinking, well, you're only thinking this because you've seen such shocking footage. I'm sure if we saw all the other footage, blah, 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 but you're forgetting the point. What's going on now would not have happened if it had been for October the 7th. If that had happened, say, like in Portsmouth, where loads of people had been shot down, raped, children butchered, set on fire, decapitated, if that had happened in Portsmouth or that had happened in London, I could tell you the anger and the fury of our nation against anyone that would ever dare think about that. But there wouldn't be a public outcry. There wouldn't be the United Nations saying, oh, you know, we must have a balanced war here. They took this amount of lives, therefore you can only take this amount of lives. It just is wrong. If you've seen the things that I saw today, you would realize this is not about politics. This is not about Israel and a two-state solution. This is literally about good versus evil. And Israel were attacked by evil people that did evil and atrocious things. And therefore, I have to say to Christian leaders, I don't mean to be rude and blunt to you, but shame on you. that you've decided to take no stand on this, that you've like, well, theologically we don't believe Israel is relevant today, or politically we don't stand with Israel. How dare you? How dare you take that cop-out angle on the fact of when something so heinously evil has taken place? Does it matter that it's the Jewish people? What if it was the Indian people? What if it was Muslim people that this had happened to? I guarantee it would have been a different narrative. But because it's theologically loaded and because it's politically loaded, the church has decided to wash our hands of it, which is very interesting because that's exactly what the church did in the Second World War. They sang louder and praised harder and louder when the trains were ricketing going by down the track with all the Jews being loaded to Auschwitz. And I have to say, and I say it very vocally and I say it with my hand on my heart, that I think the church, for the most part, has let down Israel. I don't care whether you politically like Israel or whether you theologically like Israel. If you'd seen what I'd seen today, you would know that evil visited itself upon another country. And I don't care how much you want to sit there and justify why they had it coming to them. If you'd seen what I saw today, nobody deserves that. No one deserves that kind of butchery, that kind of atrocity, that kind of evil, that kind of wicked, disgusting behaviour where people are treated less than junk. And so that's it really. So what I saw today is deeply shocking. I saw the murder of 129 innocent people, rape, decapitation. Some of those things were children. And there's nothing worse than seeing children, having to suffer the way they did. I saw one piece of footage where, this was not today, this was from a few weeks back, where Hamas went into a building, just shot all of these children, but there were still a few survivors rolling around in the blood. They just went in and finished them off. These are children. If you think that you can remain quiet on that because theologically you don't think Israel's important, or politically you don't stand with Israel, there's something seriously wrong with your moral compass.